This week on our show, the brilliant platform puzzler Mirror for Commodore Amiga, and Star Skimmer, an amazing shoot 'em up for the Commodore 64 in our new retro games reviews. Our hardware review examines our first Nintendo 64 flash cartridge, the Summer Card 64, in detail. In our Dawson Win Vault, we play and review the incredible and incredibly funny Hunchback remake, the Hunch Refurbished. And we look back into one of the most action-packed run-and-gun games for the MS-DOS, the exciting Abuse. Finally, in our history lesson, we tell you the tale of a little robot that made Nintendo king of the video games industry back in the distant 1985. Another amazing episode begins now. This week's new retro games reviews kicks off with the game Mirror for Commodore Amiga with 1 MB expansion by Zenner. The game is a simple but devilishly smart platform puzzler that has you controlling two robots at once that move in mirror moves to each other, meaning that if the robot on the left goes left, the robot on the right screen goes right. The goal of the game is to lead both robots to the exit of each stage simultaneously, and believe us when we say it's easier said than done. The first puzzles are simple, with few and simple moves that are required to solve the room puzzle. Later though, enemies get into the equation, along with the environmental hazards, key requirements to unlock one or both doors, and many other challenges. The game is very fun and very easy to pick up, but hard to put down, with an easy control system and pretty good presentation, accompanied by a great soundtrack and good sound effects. On to the rankings now, and the graphics get an 8.2. The controls receive a 9. The music and sound effects an 8.9. And the gameplay a 9.4, for a total of 8.87. A great puzzler that will keep your brain busy. On to the next review with Star Skimmer, a great shoot 'em up for the Commodore 64 by Alf Ingve and Martin Piper. You play as a heroic pilot named Cole Skimmer, who fights against the evil Nitwap Empire. You control a spaceship with a triple beam shot, and you try to reach the end of the battle. Every end of the stage is accompanied by a boss battle before the path is clear for the next. The controls are simple and responsive, with no complaints for the collision detection. The game is actually a re-release in enhanced form after winning the Seok Combo 2025 competition, and is presented with parallax scrolling and new amazing music soundtracks and other minor improvements compared to the original release. The graphics and animation are very good, with big, colorful sprites that move wonderfully across the screen, and smart behavior on behalf of your enemies. You must face both ground and aerial threats, and you get the chance to rescue troops on the ground by flying over them, for extra points. You must also beware not to crash into enemy buildings. The game is an amazing shoot 'em up that brings back great memories of games like Uridium, and it really is of high production value. The graphics are awarded a 9.4. The controls get a 9.3. The music and sound effects a solid 9.5, and the gameplay a 9.6, for a total of 9.45, and the title of the Game of the Week. Simply an amazing retro shooter that will test your skills. But we're not done yet. This week we have a bonus review that I just couldn't omit, since it's a conversion of a beloved classic arcade to the Amiga computers in absolute arcade perfection. This is the Konami Hypersports for the Amiga. The game is amazingly presented with wonderful and faithful to the original graphics, along with great music and sound effects, including all the digitized speech. Of course, the game will send your joystick or gamepad to the hospital's ER, since it uses the classic left-right wiggle of the arcade, but that also means it's true to the experience. All the games of the original are here for you to enjoy. This is a small tech marvel as far as conversions go, and for that we will award it with the Special 10 Award. Truly excellent. Today in our hardware review we have a special guest, the Summer Card 64 for the Nintendo 64. It is not very often that we have Nintendo 64 peripherals, so this should be pretty exciting. The Summer Card 64 is a well-built, high-quality plastic cartridge. It has a red switch on the back that, if you keep pressed during boot up, will run its self-diagnostics. It has, of course, a standard micro SD card slot, although the position of it leaves a lot to be desired. The button on the back has also a number of other programmable functions for developers. The cartridge comes with stickers that you can put on it according to your tastes, and I must say that they're of pretty good quality. It also comes with a mini SD card reader for you to access your files on your PC. It's a nice gift, I won't deny it. Of course, nothing special about the installation, you just plug it into the cartridge port just like any other game. It's a nice one, and let's go see it in action. Now this is the main menu that greets you every time you boot up the cartridge. The process of running a game is very simple, and you can get all the info you want by pressing the Start button on a ROM. Now, let's choose a game. The color of the menu could have been a bit better to provide more clear selections. It kind of blends with the background, the selector, which is pretty inconvenient. Now, by choosing a ROM, you get to see analytical info about it before loading it. Let's go with Batman of the Future. No, this is not it. Give me a moment. That's what I meant when I said about the selector's colors. As you can see, it kind of blends. The flash process is very fast and won't exceed the time needed to load a normal cartridge. As you can see, the game booted up with no problems. In fact, I've met no problems whatsoever in all the times I started a game. And it runs smoothly too, as it loads up in between various stages very fast. I haven't played this game in ages, now that I think of it. Let's go back now to see another interesting function, namely the ability to run Game Boy and Game Boy Color ROMs. There. And you can see, again, it runs perfectly. I really don't remember the adventures of R.O.B. Anyway, after that, I can also tell you that you can run Super NES titles with no problem, or Region Lock too. This is a PAL console, and let's run the NTSC F-Zero, and once again, as you can see, it boots up perfectly with no problems. By the way, if you've never played F-Zero, do it right after watching our show, of course. Now, there is one last thing I want to show you. Besides the fact that you can change settings through the config file on your desktop PC, the Summer Cart 64 can also run the 64DD games. You have to choose a ROM first without booting it, and then choose the 64DD expansion and boot it by choosing the option Load the expansion alongside the ROM. It is a bit complicated, but you'll get used to it. Now, as you can see, we've chosen SimCity, the expansion, load with ROM, and again, it runs a bit slower because it loads both the expansion and the ROM, but in the end, it runs smoothly with no hassle. And there you go. Of course, there aren't a lot of games that made use of the 64DD, as it's considered a failed peripheral, but still having the option is nice. The Summer Cart 64 is truly a value for money cartridge. It provides so many functions, it is well built, you have developer options, and an SD card for your ROMs. Oh, I believe that it's easy to use, and I think that this is the cartridge to go if you want to enjoy playing your Nintendo 64 game backups. So I definitely recommend it. I think it's excellent, and a thumbs up from me. The first game to grace our DOS Vault review is the Hunch Refurbished by Langford Productions. A reimagining of the classic Hunchback game, and boy, what a fun reimagining it is. You play, of course, as Mr. Hunch, a hunchback that tries to save Esmeralda from her prison. The presentation of the game is simply amazing and extremely fun. The game is really funny in the appearance of the enemies, and the deaths of poor Mr. Hunch are especially hilarious. The controls are simple, with only the directions and a fire button needed. Be mindful though that the game requires precision and quick thinking, as you can't stall for long in its area, or the guards will climb the wall and get you. The music and sound effects are also of the same fun tone and quality as the graphics. There are several stages to play. The game is not long, of course, but it is one of those games that you'll play again and again. On to the ranking now, and the graphics are awarded a 9.5. The controls a 9.2. The music and sound effects a well-deserved 9.6. And the gameplay a solid 9.5. For a total of 9.45. This little game is pure gold. Try it out. It's time to dig back into the past in our vault, and this week we found the amazing Abuse, a run-and-gun game by Crack.com that was published back in 1996 for MS-DOS. You play as Nick Vrenna, a wrongfully incarcerated man that after a horrible experiment turned all the other inmates into monsters and caused a prison riot, gets the chance to fight his way to freedom. The game is controlled both by mouse and keyboard, with keyboard controlling the direction of movement and the mouse are targeting and shooting. It takes a little while to get used to it, but soon it becomes second nature. The game is a very enjoyable shooter, with fast action and a variety of environments and stages to go through. The game is presented with very good graphics and excellent animation. The music and the sound effects are atmospheric and fit the atmosphere of the game perfectly. It must be said that the game is rather hard, and soon you will find yourself in situations that need the maximum of your skills and reflexes to survive. It is one of the last truly great arcade-style games for the MS-DOS to ever come out before the OS was abandoned, and you must give it a go if you like action games. The graphics are awarded an 8.9. The controls an 8.7. The music and sound effects a 9.1. And the gameplay a well-earned 9.2. For a total of 8.97. This is a classic game that you must revisit. This week's history lesson is an interesting one. We're here to talk about the shadow hero behind Nintendo's dominance of the video game market in the years between 1985 through 1994. And his name is R.O.B. Back in the early 80s, the American video market was the place to rule if you wanted to be the top dog. Back in the early 80s, and more specifically 1983, the American video game market was scorched earth. A few years back, video game consoles were everywhere, and even big stores like Sears were trying their hands with video games, even in the form of game collection cartridges. But the dream was over. The oversaturation of the market with trash software, with Atari, the leader at the time, having no control or quality check over it, brought the people buying and playing video games to the end of their wits, and in a jiffy, the market crashed and burned. Everywhere in America, the big retailers were trying to get rid of the stock in ridiculous discounts, practically putting the last nail on the market's coffin. For a whole year and a half, you couldn't even suggest the creation or circulation of a new console to stores like the aforementioned Sears, because security would throw you out the window. This behavior was not uncalled for. The video game crash cost the retailers hundreds of millions of dollars in damage. So, When the time came for Nintendo to invade the US market, how were they supposed to do that? Enter Yamauchi, the cunning president of Nintendo, who, along with Minoru Arakawa, his son-in-law, they devised an ingenious plan. Since not one of the retailers would stock any form of video game consoles, they wouldn't sell one. Instead, they would sell a toy. The Nintendo Famicom, as it was known in Japan, was redesigned to look like a kid's VCR, and along with it, a toy robot was designed by the legendary Gunpei Yokoi. The robot was capable of only basic interaction functions with specific games, and it was made on purpose of plastic, looking more like a toy than a high-end product. The toy was named R.O.B. and was part of the main package of the Nintendo Entertainment System, as was the new name of the console now, NES, in America. The final step was the places that R.O.B. and the NES were pushed. Instead of going to the high street retailers of electronics and large stores like Sears, Nintendo approached places like Toys R Us. In a nutshell, they convinced the market that all they did was sell a new toy, nothing to do with video game consoles. This, along with a risk-free offer that Arakawa offered them, if the stock they bought didn't sell, they could return the remainder and get a full refund for it, managed to put the NES in almost every toy shop in the large US cities. The rest is history, as they say, since a year later, and partially thanks to the very strict control of Nintendo over the quality of the software, the NES dominated the market. And all this thanks to a toy robot.